Hey everyone, it's Sensei and Sophie Briggs here. We're going to continue our video from Tuesday night where we went over some things that we do in our class here in Kidokime-ryu Karate-do here in Charlotte. We're going to start by recapping what we did on Tuesday night's video and then move forward with some additional information for you guys. Sophie?
Okay, so I think the last thing that we went over on our last training video was fighting stances.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right and left hand fighting stance. And we talked about the angles of the right and left hand fighting stance. And of course, like what we said, we do those from a 45-degree angle when you're fighting someone. Let's both of us show one to the camera. We get the left hand fighting stance, and that's 45-degree angle, just like this, of course, with the hands away from the body. And then the right hand fighting stance is the same thing, 45-degree angle, hands away from the body. That way you don't have this blind spot over here, but yet you're not silhouetting your body too much to give your opponent a big target to aim at, if you will, when they're striking, punching, kicking, whatever the case may be. So that was what we covered last time. Tuesday night, was it?
Tuesday night, yes.
What's today?
The
Friday,
17th.
what? Friday the 17th. Okay. So, yeah, Tuesday night, this past Tuesday night, which would have been, what, 14th? That's when we went over that. So we were supposed to make a video last night. Obviously, we didn't get around to it. So we're trying to get caught up on that. We're making a training video tonight. So we'll continue going over. This is the same list of questions that Sensei had Tuesday night. She asked a question. I'll answer the question. We explain it. We'll show you an example of it. All the belts in our style, from the very first belt, even the white belt, all the way up to the last brown belt that you get, you have an additional 25 questions to what you've already been taught. With the black belt, I think you have an additional 50 questions, but we're not going to say which belt level this came from, but this is, again, questions that are asked in this style. And again, and I know I keep saying this, but all this stuff is particular to our style.
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't mean every style does it. Doesn't mean we're right, they're wrong. This is the way we do it. And obviously the way we do it, we think that it's right. Otherwise, that's, we would be doing it some other way. Actually, I don't even know if that's good to say. It's our style. This is the way we teach it. This is the way that we do it, and Kidokime-ryu Karate-do.
Right.
So everything that we're teaching, we know that we might have some people out there from different styles that might be watching these videos or something like that, or maybe people from that's never taken martial arts watch these videos. This, I want everybody to understand, this is the way that Kidokime-ryu Karate-do does it.
Right.
It doesn't mean that Taekwondo does it this way, or Shotokan, or Shito-ryu, or Goju-ryu, Water-ryu, Shorin-ryu, or any other style. Tang-soo-do, Hapkido, it doesn't mean anybody else that this is the way that Kidokime-ryu Karate-do does it. So we teach it particular to our style.
Yes, yes.
So what's the next question?
Okay, next we have on our list, what is a high riding posture?
Okay, and I'm assuming the next question is what's a low riding posture?
Yes.
Okay, so when we teach stances, whether they're a stance to fight out of, or whether it's a stance to do kata out of, whether it's just a stance you would do floor movement out of, all of our stances are considered one of two things. It's either a high riding posture stance or a low riding posture stance. A high riding posture stance is something where you stand more in an upright position.
Right.
Like what we're doing now, like our fighting stances. The way that we do cat stances is a high riding posture. So, anything where you're standing in more, or when you're in a more of an upright position.
Like this.
Like the fighting stance that Sensei's in right now, this is considered a high riding posture. okay? And our low riding postures is something where you get down, you get lower to the ground in your stance. It's like a horse stance. You know, show them the difference between, you know, this is low riding posture, which means she's lower to the ground. So if she goes from a low riding posture stance, horse stance, to a high riding posture, right hand fighting stance, show them what it looks like. See, now she's standing more upright. Okay, another one would be another low riding posture stance, the way we do our front stances. Get deep, low down in the front stance. Okay, as you can see, she's lower to the ground in her front stance, you know. But let's say she comes back up into a ready stance, which is one of the stances that we teach, you know. Then there she is back in a high riding posture. So the difference between a high riding posture and a low riding posture is basically, are you lower to the ground?
Right.
Or are you standing more upright?
Right.
A high riding posture stance is you're standing more upright, more in an upright position.
Right.
A low riding posture stance, you're closer to the floor. You're bending your knees. You're getting
Yes.
closer to the floor. So
Yes.
that's the only difference between those two. And all the stances that we teach are one or the other. It's either a high riding posture stance or a low riding posture stance.
Very true. Okay, next question. What does telegraphing a block or technique mean?
Okay, telegraphing a block or technique is basically, well, probably the easiest way to explain this is when you telegraph, let's say we're talking about a punch, you know, and you can telegraph a block, you can telegraph a punch, you can telegraph a kick, whatever, but it's basically telling your opponent, I'm about to throw this type of technique at you.
Right.
You know, so if, let's say you're in a right hand fighting stance like this, you know, and if I throw a reverse punch on sensei, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a direct line. It's not, you don't go around something that's from point A to point B. So if I want to throw a reverse punch at her and hit her, the quickest way of getting that is boom, right there. But if we're sparring, and if I say I want to throw that same reverse punch, and I draw back like this, and then come forward, I'm telegraphing. I'm telling her, hey, this is about to come.
Sock you.
Right, this is getting ready to what?
Sock you.
Sock you? Wow. Okay.
Layman's terms.
Yeah, I guess, layman's terms, but it's telling your opponent what you're getting ready to do before you do it, and it gives them all the time in the world. Now, you can use this to your advantage also. You can use a fake telegraph if you want to, you know, like you're like this, and let's say that I want you, let's say for some reason you got your hands up and I want you to come down that hand. I can fake maybe this reverse punch, get you to drop that hand, and then follow through with a lead punch, you know, or something like that. You can do a fake telegraph, but pretty much what telegraphing boils down to is giving off a clue, giving off a hint. You're doing something with your hands or with your arms, with your legs, with your body to tell your opponent, I'm about to strike you with a punch. I'm about to strike you with a kick.
Right.
You know, something along those lines, and that's all telegraphing is. It's
Which
just,
you don't want to do.
no,
You don't
no,
want to do
not
that.
if you want to hit them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, we have people that comes in class all the time. You know, like when they first start out, and it's funny how when they first start out, and you're trying to teach them how to throw a reverse punch, I'll always cock it back to try and get more power and speed off of it. Well, you might get more power if you cock it back, you know, because instead of it going from here to here, if you cock it back, now it's going from here to here. So the more distance, you're gaining more power maybe, but the power that you might gain from it, you're wasting it because this person's going to pick it up and know that you're about to throw that technique. So they're either going to plant a block or some type of footwork to get out of the way or something. So it's never going to land to begin with, you know. So you're wasting your energy, and it can't be any faster. You know, a lot of people will come back here because they think that not only it's going to be more powerful, but it's going to be faster. Well, from the time you go from here to here, and then from here to here, there's no way feasible that it can be as fast as just going from here to here. Bam! Like that. Just a straight line from point A to point B. It just can't do it because of the space that it's got to cover. So that's pretty much all telegraphing is.
Okay. Next we have, there are 3 categories of footwork, and what are they?
Okay, the 3 categories of footwork that we teach is mobility, entry, and retreat. Mobility is doing nothing more than moving around while you're sparring. You know, you're being mobile. You know, if you're not mobile, that means you're just planted in one. You're just planted in one position. But if you are mobile, you're just moving all over the place. You know, you like this. You know, you're changing stances. You're just, you know, you're moving in. You're moving back. That's all it is. Mobility, entry, and retreat. Mobility is just being mobile. It's just moving around while you're sparring, you know, and being able to move around. You might not move, you might stop or being like this, you know, but you can still be mobile, you know, even though you stop like that. So that's one. The other form of footwork is entry. And that's just getting from where you are close enough to your opponent to where you can affect a technique. You know, you're entering the zone where you can strike, where you can punch, where you can kick someone. So if I'm standing, scoot back a little bit, if I'm standing this far from you, I feel real confident that I can kick you from here. Even though my legs is not this far, but with my footwork and with my kicks, I feel real confident I'm going to be able to kick you from here. Okay? And so whenever I do that, I don't have to be right here to kick you.
Right.
You know, I can be right here to kick you, but I'm still going to have to use some kind of footwork to do my entry work to get in here to enter your zone in order to kick you. And the same thing for punching you. You know, if I'm right here, I feel pretty confident that I could probably hit you with one of my fists from right here, okay? But if I just do like this or like this, I can't hit you. So I'm going to have to use some kind of footwork and to cover this distance so that I can, when I step in here, I can hit you, you know, whenever I come in like that. And that's just called entry. It's entry into your opponent, you know. Mobile or being mobile or mobility is just moving around. Entry is when you're actually entering the opponent's area to actually strike them, whether it's with a punch or a kick. And of course, if entry is moving into your opponent to try to punch or kick, then retreat, which is the other form of footwork, is getting away from your opponent. You know, say we're right here, and I see you start to move toward me, whether it's just take one step with that foot, you're doing something to enter my space.
Okay.
So retreat is just, once I see that taking place, is for me to back up and get out of that space, regain that space for me, you know.
Okay.
So your 3 forms of footwork is mobility, entry, and retreat. You know, being mobile, while you're just moving around while you're fighting, instead of just standing here robotic, you know, and standing here and punching and never moving. Mobility is just being mobile. Entry is getting into your opponent's area where you can land a punch, where you can land a kick, and retreat is when you see your opponent come into you to get in your area for you to back out of the way, to get out of the way. And it don't just have to be, this is not the only form of retreat right here. Just like this is not the only form of entry. You know, there's different forms of entry. There's different forms of retreat. You know, there's different ways of doing it. Sometimes you might want to take one step. Sometimes instead of step and doing like, or sometimes you might just want to do like this. Sometimes you might want to step back and do like this. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do each one of these 3 types of footwork. But when it comes down to it, your basic 3 types of footwork, it's mobility, entry, and retreat to do that. How much, what's the other question? Because I want to cut this video kind of short tonight.
The next one is, what does sit on your opponent
Yeah.
mean?
And what's the one after that?
About inertia.
Okay, well, we'll, I guess we could do sit and just start out with the next lesson at inertia, right?
We could, yeah. That would be a good
Or would
start.
sit go better with inertia, do you think?
I don't know.
Okay, let's just talk about sit real quick, sitting on your opponent. And then we'll come back to it when we do the next
We can
training
recap.
video.
The
Yeah,
next
just
video.
recap. But basically, sitting on your opponent is just going in and locking yourself in one place. It's like I'm just sitting here. I'm waiting for you to make a move on me because maybe I'm a defensive fighter, you know. And most all fighters are either going to find that they're an offensive fighter or they're a defensive fighter. An offensive fighter means they want to take the fight to you. A defensive fighter a lot of times means that they're more of a counter fighter. That they want to react off of your action. You know, they want to block and counterattack. And that counterattack doesn't necessarily mean that it's a 1 or 2 strike counterattack. Sometimes it can be a flurry, you know. Some of your really, really, really good fighters, and I preach this a lot, everybody should train to do both of them. You should try to train to be more of an offensive fighter, and then you should train to also be a good defensive fighter. Okay, but sitting on your opponent is usually what defensive fighters does. They lock in a place, you know, say you're right there, we get through bowing at each other, you know, they say fighters take your stance, and we get like this, we move around a little bit, and then all of a sudden I get like this, you know. Maybe I'm even inching up a little bit on you, or something like this. But basically I'm sitting on you. This is referred to as sitting on your opponent, okay? I'm sitting here in one stance. You can be moving around if you want to. You can move a little bit that side, and I'm not doing anything. I might be turning, but I'm still just sitting on you, watching you. I'm waiting for you to make a movement, or for you to make a movement on me so that I can block and counter it, okay? And so that's what sitting on your opponent means. It means just locking yourself in a place. You know, whether you want to lock it like this or whether you want to be like this, whatever the case may be, you know, you get to a certain point, a certain area, if you will, on that fighter, depending on how fast you might think they are, how long their legs or arms is, or something like that, what you think is your good distance, and you just sit on it. This is called sitting. You're just sitting here on your opponent, and you're waiting for that opponent to do something so you can react.
Okay.
You're reacting off of their actions, basically. Okay. So.
Don't forget to mention the homework assignment.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll let you explain it this time. I talked about it Tuesday night. Do you remember what it was?
Yes, I do.
We gotta make it quick though.
Reminding you all to not forget about the homework assignment that was in Tuesday night's video. We need a 2-page report on
minimum
2-page report on Gichin Funakashi from his birth to his death. And you need to include the names of both his mentors in your report. Please make sure that it is put in your own words and not copied from what you read or what you research.
Right. No plagiarizing.
Yes, and it's due the
last day of April.
Right.
I gotta have it by 10 p.m. on the last day of April. And I've already sent everybody in the Charlotte class the email address, which is basically Kidokime-ryu@yahoo.com, no hyphens, just Kidokime-ryu.com. or I text everybody the mailing address. You can mail it to us, or you can email it to us. It doesn't matter. Just get it to us no later than 10 p.m. on the last day of April.
Right.
No double spacing. No double spacing. Has to be typewritten. No handwriting, because
Okay.
I can't read everybody's handwriting.
Okay.
Sometimes people can't even read mine, you know. So no handwriting, type, no double space, minimum 2-page. Like since they said from birth to death.
Right.
And that's to include obviously his two mentors, where he grew up at as a child, you know, where he lived his, I don't want to say too much to give away, because then you're going to take what I'm telling you and put it in a report, but basically what he did, because he did more than just martial arts, but what he did and where he did it as an adult.
Right.
You know, just cover birth to death. It's not that difficult. Okay? Anything else you want to say?
No, y'all stay safe, stay well. Looking forward to when we can see y'all in person back in the dojo, hopefully sooner than later.
Okay. All right.